Continuing here to finish my sentence. No, it simply means that violence is an absolute last resort for defense, and it never to be used offensively. And like Smedley Butler, the Marine Corps general, pointed out in his book War is a Racket, that it turns out that the pacifists are your fiercest fighters. You want them on your side, the peace-loving people like myself. I mean, I consider myself a peacemaker. Jesus talked about that. They need disciples of him. I mean, he is the Prince of Peace. Okay, he's the King of Kings, Lord of Lords. He has sole authority on this earth. He's going to judge rightfully, and he's going to put the angels in charge, these harvesters of the souls of men. This is at the end of the age. This is what takes place, whether it's a metaphor or otherwise. This is what's taking place, beginning to. We're at the apex. We're at the precipice, okay, right before this time. We're living in a very special time in history, and it's denoted by all the technology. Technology translates to knowledge. Knowledge, worldwide knowledge. This is what the finger, the hand of God, this is how it's working for humanity. Knowledge is power. And this is the only way we're going to extricate ourselves from the maws of these evildoers. It's not going to be done through violence, through some bloody revolution. It's not going to happen that way. It's just knowledge reaching a critical mass, and that's the finger of God. That's the hand of God. When it empowers everybody, so you're pulled out of Babylon confusion on your own. You make your own choice, your own decision to come out of ignorance, to come out of stupidity, to come out of cognitive dissonance. Okay, and say it's traumatic, though. I mean, when you understand that nothing is the whole entire system, the established system, is bad religion, and it's all fraudulent, it's all made up. The whole thing, up one side, down the other, and to the nth degree. The whole monetary-based reality that's been shoved down our throats from birth, we're told this is just the way it is, accept it, and get used to it, get comfortable with this. When it just, if your eyes are open and you're honest, and you say you have a modicum of integrity and honor and ethics and a moral compass, you say this is immoral, this is wrong. I mean, if anybody deserves to be prosperous here, isn't it the people pouring out their blood, sweat, and tears every day out there in the farms and the factories and everywhere else, working minimum wage jobs? And we're going to cheat them. We're going to finger them as the ones. Yeah, not everybody can have a living wage, have a middle class life. Well, yes, indeed they can, but evil men aren't allowing it. I'm telling you, we're up against a juggernaut of pure evil genius. That's who they are, the genie. I recently learned the association with genius, where that term comes from, its origins, the etymology, and genies. These people, like spirits, that's what they are. They're into. Listen, it's a bad religion, the established religion. That's it. It's the authoritarians, draconian. And it's baseless. I mean, I'm telling you that. I mean, we know some laws make sense, but we know others don't, and we know it makes no sense to have a lack of laws here. I mean, we don't even have to live by the golden rule. Can you imagine? I mean, it's totally okay. I mean, as long as we say it's okay in your business affairs to go way outside the golden rule. You cut throats metaphorically, you step on toes, you do whatever it takes to get ahead. That's we call capitalism and Americana. And just the way it is, buddy, get comfortable with it. Get used to it. Accept that we're going downhill. We're going to go into third, fourth world status here in America, and we're going to keep shipping in young, strong immigrants to displace the weak, native-born American citizens. That's the way. Just accept it, man. That's just the status quo. That's status quoism. That's the trajectory we want to stay on. Keep debasing your money. Keep watering it down. Keep diluting it, making it worthless. Worth less and less, right? That's what currency debasement is, through raising your cost of living. And it causes a chain reaction. How can it not? I mean, where's the Federal Labor Department looking after the interests of the minimum wage workers out there? They could have acted like a check and balance. They never could have gotten away with debasing the money like this. If the Labor Department stepped in and said, oh, no, we were looking after the interests of the federal minimum wage workers. Because when we established that federal minimum wage, okay, it was based on a standard of living. We did a CPI, the Consumer Price Index, and we calculated the cost for expenses that you can't get away from. You called basic essential human needs like housing and food, potable water, and a modicum of energy needs were calculated into that estimate for minimum wage. You understand? There was a logic. Okay, there was a rhyme and a reason for setting minimum wage where it was set when it was initiated at its inception, but it wasn't protected. Whereas the Federal Labor Department, you think this is through incompetence? Well, somebody give me a justifiable explanation, something that I could sink my teeth into why they let this happen, not year after year, decade after decade. You understand? If they came out and said, hey, we calculated the cost of living went up, yeah, and they know what it is. Their eyes are open. They're smart, educated people with all the acronyms behind their name, right? That's who's running the show, the Federal Labor Department. Oh, my God, they only hire the cream of the crop from Harvard, right? Running these places. But it's to the president that set minimum wage. And nobody's talking about this stuff in the mainstream media. You understand the stuff they're omitting. It's just important to understand is the stuff that they're telling you. It's all propaganda. We're being trained, manipulated to be stupid, basically. And at some point, it's our own choice. We're not investigating. We don't care. Like I tell people, investigate the veracity of Jesus Christ and what he said and what he did. So people were raised from the dead, so what? Why is that so hard to believe? If you can imagine it happening, I mean, that means it could happen. It's that simple. You want to know what can and cannot be literal and happen? That's it. But yeah, they're remiss. The Federal Labor Department could have prevented what's happened in this country. The mainstream media's been in there telling you how good it is. Property values, this is all good. Collusive special interest groups, the lenders are involved. The real estate companies, the lenders, the real estate management groups, all the investors and speculators and flippers and landlords, they all have an interest in raising the price. People working on commissions, percentage, so the higher it goes, so it goes on their side of the ledger. In their minds, they've been trained to go along with the program, just debase the money, and you get this wealth imbalance, this wealth disparity happens when fewer people can afford to be homeowners and live a middle-class life. And now the majority of California residents are renters. You don't ever hear the mainstream media trying to educate you about that, trying to educate you about the direct correlation between the cost people are paying to buy a house and the cost people are paying to rent a house. Never talking about the $50 billion a year that gets spent on subsidizing housing costs for poor people. Never talking about how we're willing to spend all this money for rapists and murderers in the prison system, mollycoddling these criminals. But yet no soup for the desperately poor and homeless people suffering needlessly out in the cold. Better women and men than us for all we know. You know, when I talk about men, I'm talking about women by default. It's just, and when I talk about God, I'm talking, and I refer to God as a him, father, whatever. It's a her too. That's first chapter in the Bible. I mean, you know, I'm into ancient wisdom as well as, you know, recent current events and all this stuff. I want to know what ancient wisdom is all about. And you learn that from what they still to this day call the wisest man in the world, King Solomon. But then you got to learn more from Jesus, because Jesus superseded King Solomon, blew him out of the water wisdom-wise. Okay, no comparison. He talked in parables, so you had to really want to understand. That's what it came down to. You got to really care. You got to do your own work, your own investigation, your own research, and see if it's for you. That's all I'm saying. But don't be afraid to find out for yourself. Don't listen to any Tom, Dick, or Harry out there. Don't listen to me. Find out for yourself about this stuff. But it's important, man. I mean, we're going to stand before God on Judgment Day someday. I mean, might be today. If the last breath we take is today, last day on earth today, we got no more time to figure out who we want to be. Do we want to be right with him? Do we want our BS, our belief system, to hold water with him? When we tell him we justify ourselves and we explain, you know, why we believe this way or that way, what it's based on. Oh. So we spend $50 billion a year on subsidizing housing costs of the poor. We exacerbate the problem. I forgot to tell the analogy I had of, it's like having a little pinhole in your gas tank, right? Gasoline's leaking out. So the solution from the establishmentarians, they know about the pinhole. They put it there, like a corrupt mechanic or something might do on one of these exposés. But they put more gas in. They say this is the answer, and okay, just put the gas in faster. And so the theory is, of course, you know, that we're putting the gas in quicker which is the money. We're pouring money into it quicker than we can, the gas can leak out. But what they're doing is they're eroding the hole in the gas tank, and the gas is leaking out. And the hole is getting bigger and bigger. And so the answer is, oh, pour more and pour more. It's like beating your head against the wall. It's insanity in your face, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. But we're all been trained to accept this stuff, to tolerate this crap. No solutions. Oh no, the problem's overwhelming. Just get used to it, and they're going to get worse. And just that's the way it is. And go along, get used. Don't question it. Just comply, conform, get comfortable with that reality, that state of affairs, the status quo, this trajectory of ever-growing wealth imbalance and poverty. And sorry, but we got a critical mass of well-heeled, satiated people out there, and they work in the mainstream media. We make sure they can afford a middle-class life because they got to spew out all this stuff and not spew out the stuff they ought to be spewing out. They get paid well for that. They get multi-million-dollar contracts if they're doing national syndicated BS, training you. God, you think we're not in trouble? You think this is not a juggernaut, a pure evil genius? We're in trouble. How are we going to extricate ourselves from this without God's help? Without getting knowledgeable about this stuff and empowered and speaking out on behalf of others? How dare we enjoy our creature comforts while better men and women than us, have we met them all, are suffering needlessly and dying sometimes out in the cold, and spending some 70 at least $1,000 a year per inmate for rapists and murderers? And you're okay with that? You're comfortable with that? You want to get comfortable with that? You want to tolerate that? You want to not speak out about that? Want to accept that? It's your choice. You'll stand before your owner. It's mano a mano for all of us. I can't save anybody's soul. All I can do is point you to one that can. Say it straight, listen to him. Don't listen to me like I talk about aspartame damaging the brain. It's not my knowledge. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a brain surgeon. But I'm learning from one that is. And that's what he has to say, and I believe him. That's all. I'm believing the expert, and I'm conveying that information. Am I wrong to do that? Am I wrong to say, well, you got to be educated about vaccines. Some are good, some may not. Who knows? You got to do your own research. You care about protecting yourself and your children? Do your own research depending on the vaccine. What's his name? Rand Paul, the Senator Rand Paul's doctor, right? He said he would never let his children be vaccinated for hepatitis B on day one. I guess that's pretty popular, pretty common. And he attributes that to SIDS. I think, well, I had an experience with that myself with my son. So, who knows? And then you find out, you learn information, you go, wow, the most educated areas of California, they say have the lowest vaccination rates. You got to do your own research. I'm not making this stuff up. I'm just conveying what I've learned, what I've been taught by the experts. Statistics are hard to argue with. They're like facts. It's like, well, sure, you can beat your head against the wall, but hey, science is science. I heard up to 40% of the people in the medical industry are not wanting to get vaccinated. Go figure. But remember, all these vaccinations, all these chemicals and drugs that are given to us, the pills, prescriptions, all this crap, it has organic origins. So if you can do this thing organically, organics are always superior to the artificials, the synthetics, okay? So if you can do it with things like oil of oregano, consult your physician. Powerful. If you ever lose stools, look into it. Look into it. These capsules of oil of oregano, you might just have some bugs in there. Look into it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not giving advice, medical advice, or anything else. I never give it investment advice. Okay, I'm just saying investigate for yourself, consult your physician. Okay. Rush Limbaugh died of lung cancer and he was young, right? 60s. But was he taking cod liver oil? Was he educated like I was about that to protect your lungs? I don't know. But I doubt it. You've got to look into these things. Natural cures, natural preventatives. They talk about it once in a while. They'll say, yeah, take this vitamin, that vitamin, the A and D, and we all know about vitamin C, and All of them. B complex is very important for the brain function. So I absolutely recommend that. I'm not religious about taking supplements. In fact, I should take a lot more often probably. Because who has a perfect diet? Who gets everything they need from their diet? So you add stuff to it.